Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is, well, pretty simple. You bring us sources, could be articles, notes, research, and we really dig in to find the important stuff, the nuggets that help you get informed quickly.
Exactly. Think of us as helping you cut through the noise. We curate it, analyze it, so you don't have to wade through everything yourself.
And today, we've got something really compelling. The sources you provided, they tell the single powerful story. It starts as a seemingly normal morning, but it quickly becomes something else entirely.
Yeah, it really peels back layers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About perception, bias, even where power shows up unexpectedly.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the specific story from your materials. We want to find those key moments, those insights, and sort of explore what they tell us about, well, ourselves and the systems we're part of.
Okay, let's get into it. Settle in, because like you said, this one gets interesting fast.
All right, so the sources paint this picture, right? It's a quiet April morning, 7:42 a.m. Southridge is waking up. There's mist, sunlight hitting Horizon Tower, traffic picking up on Whitmore Avenue. Very everyday.
Really sets the scene. And it zooms in on a specific spot, a red light on 5th Street.
Yeah.
This is where the two main people in this story sort of converge.
Yeah. So up front at the light, there's a black Range Rover. Sleek. The sources describe the driver, a black woman, early 40s, white blouse, navy blazer, sunglasses, hair tied back. But the detail that stands out is her stillness.
Right, just hands on the wheel, calm, looking straight ahead, very composed.
And then 3 cars behind her, a police SUV. Inside is Officer Chad Milan. He's described as a senior officer, former Marine, sipping coffee, fiddling with the radio. There's a report about a robbery.
And then his gaze just drifts, and it lands squarely on that Range Rover.
This is the pivot point, right? The sources are very specific about his reaction here. What did they say?
Yeah, this is crucial. It says his reaction is immediate, almost visceral.
Okay.
It's based entirely on her appearance. It actually quotes his thinking, like something about the woman inside didn't sit right with him.
Didn't sit right. Because of what?
Because of the car, the clothes, her poised demeanor. It says it just didn't look like someone who belonged here. That specific phrase, belonged here, that's the snap judgment.
Wow. So the source connects that feeling directly to basically markers of success or maybe just composure in that area.
Exactly. And that initial bias, that feeling, is what drives his next move, according to the notes. He reaches for his radio, runs the plate.
And we even get the plate number, 8Q17LZ1. The dispatcher asks, the logical question, what's suspicious? What's Chad's answer?
Well, he says he hesitates, then gives this kind of cold reply, like he's justifying it after the fact. New car. This area's had multiple reports of imported car thefts.
But the source implies that's maybe not the real reason.
It feels like it. The notes highlight his intention was to make the stop anyway, low-key, without even waiting for the plate check to come back. His mind was, it seems, already made up.
Okay, so he decides to act on this feeling. He pulls ahead, quick slash of the siren, signals the Range Rover to pull over.
And the sources make a point of how she reacts. Immediate compliance. Smooth. Like she's done this before, or at least knows exactly what to do. No fuss.
Chad gets out, hand near his gun described as instinctive. He taps on her window. She rolls it down slowly. Sunglasses still on. Doesn't blink.
He starts with the routine, right? Good morning. Is this your vehicle? And after a beat, she just says softly, yes. Hands over the registration and license when he asks.
And critically, the sources state everything checked out. So on paper, legally, no problem here.
No problem at all. But the narrative stresses that for Chad, this didn't matter anymore. His focus, or rather his bias, was locked in.
This is where the sources use some strong language, isn't it?
Yeah, it says his bias was fixed. And here's a key line. Every explanation she could offer was already disqualified by a bias carved as deep as a battlefield scar. That's powerful imagery.
Battlefield scar. Wow. That suggests something really deep-seated, not just a passing thought. And it leads to his internal conclusion, right? About her and the car.
The source's quote is thinking again. Someone like her doesn't drive a car like this unless it's borrowed, stolen, or paid for by someone else. Pure assumption. Based on nothing but how she looked in that car.
And that assumption leads directly to his next action.
A sharp gesture and the order. Step out of the vehicle, please. Her response is calm, just asking, is there a problem, officer?
But he just repeats it, firmer this time.
Yeah, firmer, and he adds a justification that was still unproven. Out of the vehicle. I suspect this car is tied to a theft reported last night. I need your cooperation.
Her reaction to this escalation, the sources say it was just a quiet sigh.
Yeah, like she's evaluating it, not panicking. And when she gets out, Her composure is apparently quite striking. The source material uses this amazing line. It says she made a woman being detained on the street look like she was simply conducting a customer experience check.
Incredible image. But the situation turns immediately.
Instantly, he turns her, yanks her hands behind her back. The sources are very clear. No explanation, no warning. Just action.
And the sound of the handcuffs is described vividly.
The snap of cold metal, cracked through the quiet morning like a slap. Really visceral. And then someone walking by sees this. A woman.
Right. She stops, pulls out her phone, and actually asks him, "What the hell are you doing?" She wasn't resisting. Does Chad respond?
Nope. The sources say he just ignores her. Marches the woman, Evelyn Monroe, to his squad car and pushes her inside.
And inside the car? How is Evelyn described?
No panic. Just silence. But it's described as the kind of silence that felt like she was taking notes in a mental notebook Chad didn't even know existed. Like she's observing, processing, even in handcuffs in the back of a police car.
Okay, so the scene shifts. We're at Southridge Police Headquarters, Interrogation Room 3. It's 8:19 a.m. The room is described exactly how you'd expect. Flickering light, coffee stains. Chad comes in, shuts the door hard.
And Evelyn Monroe is just sitting there. The sources detail her posture. Perfectly upright, hands in her lap, back straight. Her eyes are on the wall clock. The description is amazing. As if she were observing time itself.
Chad starts the interrogation, slides a folder onto the table. "Want to tell me your name?"
She turns, looks at him, gives a slight nod, and then states clearly and calmly, "Dr. Evelyn Monroe." The delivery is emphasized, each word pronounced with precise calm, like a verdict being read.
That calm seems to really get under Chad's skin, based on the sources.
It does. We get his internal reaction again. He hated women like her. Too composed, too quiet. It reads like he felt she knew something he didn't, like she was waiting for him to mess up. His bias is twisting his perception of her composure into something threatening.
So he pushes back skeptically. "Doctor, huh? What field?"
And she just lists them off, calmly. Sociology, public policy, and criminal justice systems. Harvard class of 2005.
His response.
A dry laugh, apparently. Impressive.
But then silence again from her. She doesn't ask why she's there, doesn't ask for a lawyer. Just quiet.
While this is happening, the sources give us a peek into the surveillance room. Officer Torres, he's newer, only 2 years on the force. He's watching.
And he feels something's wrong. He tells Sergeant Miller something felt off, that she just doesn't seem like a suspect.
What does Miller say?
Miller's reaction is pretty cynical, according to the notes. He basically shrugs it off. "You know, Chad, all he needs is the smallest reason to make the biggest mistake." That gives you a little window into the station's culture, maybe.
Back in the interrogation room, Chad's still pushing. Invasive questions, car registration, address, ID confirmation. How does Evelyn respond?
Consistently, the sources say. Calm. No defiance, no submission. Each reply, measured and direct, was like a brick stacking into a wall of composure. But this composure seems to be making Chad increasingly agitated. His tone gets rougher, apparently, when he asks, "Where do you work?"
She pauses for a moment, then reaches into her blazer pocket.
And pulls out just a small piece of paper.
Yeah, plain white paper, no logo, just one line of text printed on it. She puts it gently on the table.
And the text says,
According to the sources, it reads, Evelyn Monroe, Ph.D., Commissioner of Police, Southridge Precinct, appointment effective Monday, April 10th, 8:00 a.m.
Wow. He reads it again. What's his reaction?
The sources describe his hand trembling. He can't look up from the paper. He's just staring at it.
And at almost the exact same moment, something happens in the surveillance room.
Yes, perfect timing. Torres steps away from the monitor. He's on his phone. Miller hears him say quietly, "The mayor's on the line. They want to know if we're detaining someone named Evelyn Monroe." And Miller, the cynical one, he goes pale.
Back in the room with Chad and Evelyn, she's still sitting there, hands folded. Chad's silent, hands on his knees. His eyes are described as hollow, like he's been stripped bare.
The sources say all the background noise just disappears for him. Only one thought is echoing. "Commissioner, she's your goss now." The woman he just arrested, based on a gut feeling, is the new police commissioner. And she started her job, less than an hour ago?
19 minutes after her appointment officially started, according to the timeline. Unbelievable.
So now it's 8:47 a.m. The whole station has this weird, quiet vibe. The sources say no alarms, no stomping boots, just an eerie stillness. Chief Douglas calls Chad, Torres, and Miller into a conference room.
And on the table, there's the official facts. Confirming Dr. Evelyn Monroe is the new police commissioner, effective today. The timing is just brutal.
Yeah. And Chief Douglas lays it out, voice tight. She had been in office for 47 minutes before Chad Mullen dragged her out of her car and slapped handcuffs on her like a common criminal. You can imagine the tension.
How do the others react? Torres, Miller.
Flores lowers his head. Miller's brow furrows. Chad. He just stands there, completely still. The sources describe it like the words had landed like a silent death sentence.
And the immediate consequence from Douglas.
Delivered flatly. You're suspended immediately.
Chad's response. Does he argue? Fight back?
Nothing. The sources say he just nods. No words, no argument, no desk pounding, no indignation, just silence. It seems like the reality, the sheer magnitude of his mistake, has just completely flattened him.
Okay. The story then jumps to that evening. We find Chad alone in his apartment. The sources describe it kind of a rundown place, stained ceiling, noisy fan. There's a glass of whiskey, untouched.
Yeah, and the news is on, playing the story everyone's talking about now. The new police commissioner, Evelyn Monroe, declining interviews but planning a 90-day internal reform.
And Chad's just restless, right? Sitting up, pouring the drink, but maybe not drinking it, turning the TV on, off, throws the remote. He's clearly agitated.
What's really hitting him, according to the sources, isn't just the suspension. It's the image of Evelyn in that interrogation room, that silence, her composure, how her quiet presence basically brought the whole precinct to a standstill.
He can't sleep. The sources mention these flashes, the handcuffs, her expression, that slight furrowed brow, and he keeps hearing Officer Torres's words from the surveillance room.
She's the commissioner, she's your boss, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be echoing.
Then, 3 days later, he gets a letter from Internal Affairs. What's in it?
Not threats, interestingly, just the evidence, video footage, body cam recordings,
And what does that footage show?
everything. The sources say it captures the disdain in his voice, that false sense of authority he had, and the sharp click of the handcuffs going on to a woman he stopped based on bias and didn't even properly identify before arresting. It's all laid bare.
And this marks the start of what the sources call the new silence for him.
Yeah, he stops taking calls, ignores texts, quits his routines, the gym, the bar. Why? Because everywhere he goes, people are talking. Hey, you heard about Chad, the guy who cuffed Commissioner Monroe. He can't escape it.
There's an encounter in a supermarket described about a week later.
Right. He makes eye contact with an elderly black woman near the vegetables. She doesn't say a word, just looks at him. But her silent stare is apparently enough. He just leaves his cart and walks out.
That night, back in his apartment, he finds the resignation letter he wrote earlier but didn't sign. He picks up a pen.
But sets it down again. Leans against the wall, just staring. And the sources tell us what's really eating at him now. It's not the job, not the pay.
It's the self-doubt, the realization.
It's the question flooding his mind. How many times have I done this before? How many people have I pulled from their cars without even asking their names? How many tired, frightened eyes did I interpret as defiance? He's questioning his entire career, his judgment.
And this leads to a really significant line in the source material about him.
Yeah, it says, for the first time in his 16 years on the force, he was afraid of himself. Not afraid of punishment, but afraid of who he was, what he'd done. That's a profound shift. So the narrative jumps forward again, about a month. It's early summer, but the sources describe the weather as kind of heavy, chilling. Feels symbolic, maybe. And we see Chad's new reality.
He's working a temporary security gig.
Yeah, wearing the uniform, standing under a rusty overhang in the parking lot behind City Hall. The contrast is stark. No gun, no badge fact, no authority, just a middle-aged man handing out parking slips and directing traffic.
And his posture, it's telling.
He bows his head every time the gate opens. The sources say it's not required, it's just he doesn't have the strength to look people in the eye.
Then, one morning, a motorcade arrives. Black SUVs, heading for City Hall. The lead vehicle stops right at his post. The window goes down.
And it's her, Evelyn Monroe. No sunglasses this time. Driving herself. Neutral expression.
Her eyes land on him. How is her gaze described?
This is powerful. Not with surprise, not with contempt, not even pity, just a profoundly human gaze. Just seeing him as a person.
Chad's reaction.
Frozen, like his feet are nailed to the concrete. He can't move.
Does she say anything?
No, just a slight tilt of her head. The sources call it a quiet nod of acknowledgement. Then Chad manages to open the gate. The SUV drives past slowly. No sirens, no sound.
He turns away afterwards.
Yeah, turns his face away, feels this tightness in his chest. Every heartbeat, the sources say, is pounding against a dignity he'd long since forfeited. That silent moment speaks volumes.
And then there's another encounter, just 2 days later.
Right. She's back for a meeting. Chad's inside City Hall this time, near a vending machine. And her voice startles him. "Mr. Milan!"
The sources emphasize this is the first time they actually speak as, well, just two people.
Exactly. Not officer and arrested person or boss and suspended subordinate, just two humans. Chad struggles to find words. She looks him right in the eye. No flinching, no waiting for excuses, the sources note.
He manages to say something, though.
Yeah, his voice is low, uneven. "I'm sorry." But then he adds this crucial part. "Not because you're the commissioner, but because I never imagined someone's eyes could haunt me the way yours have." It's incredibly personal. It's not about the power dynamic anymore.
How does she respond to that apology?
There's a pause. Then she replies softly, "I don't need your apology, but maybe the others you treated like me. They never got to hear one." Wow. That redirects it, doesn't it? Makes it bigger than just the two of them.
Chad just bows his head again. The source says it's not to her title, but because he couldn't bear to meet that gaze again, he just murmurs, "I understand."
And then Evelyn walks away. Steady, unhurried. The description is great. Not proud, but leaving behind a silence as weighty as a sentence passed. It feels like a moment of profound, quiet accountability has just taken place.
So that same night, the story follows Chad back home. He opens his old laptop, logs into the police department's internal complaint system.
Yeah, and what's he doing? According to the sources, he's searching through names. Names of people he stopped, arrested, maybe pulled over without real cause over the years. People he might have treated like he treated Evelyn initially.
He starts writing apologies.
He tries. Types them out, deletes them. Writes again, erases. It's this cycle. And the sources explain why. Not because he needed to send it, but because he needed to remember that he still owed something. It's like a private ritual of remembrance and maybe atonement. Fast forward 3 months later, the sources say Southridge itself has changed. But how? Not dramatically.
Right. Not with iron-fisted crackdowns or dramatic declarations, but through the small things. Quiet shifts.
What kind of small things? The sources give examples, right? Like longtime officers just quietly resigning. Names that were maybe once untouchable are now under investigation. It suggests a deeper cultural shift starting to happen.
And Evelyn's role in this, it sounds like it's very behind the scenes.
Exactly. Every Monday, closed-door meetings with the Internal Oversight Board. No cameras, no press, no statements. Very low-key, but clearly effective.
The sources mention whispers around town about her.
Yeah, that she doesn't speak much, but wherever she goes, the truth comes out. It paints her as this catalyst for quiet, systemic reckoning.
And what about Chad's life now? Where is he in all this?
He's living like a shadow, the sources say, working way up north in a warehouse, counting pallets, stacking boxes, physically demanding work. His body aches. But, and this is key, the sources add, his heart wasn't frozen anymore. There's another small scene described, isn't there, in a grocery store.
Yeah, he's in line. He lets a black man with a young child go ahead of him. The man gives him a glance, little nod. No recognition, just a simple human interaction.
But for Chad, that small moment means everything. The sources say he felt like crying. Why? Not because he was forgiven, but because for the first time he felt worthy of being seen as human again. That's incredibly moving, a sign of internal change.
Then, on an autumn day, he finds himself passing City Hall again. He's drawn to the memorial for fallen officers, and there's something new there.
A new bronze plaque. And the inscription, quoted in the sources, is from Evelyn Monroe. "Justice is not a siren. Justice is the gaze we cannot look away from."
Chad stands there, puts his hand on the cold metal. He's alone. But the sources describe an internal process finishing.
Yeah, like his own internal trial was quietly coming to an end. No lawyers needed.
And the sentence?
Not prison. According to the sources, the sentence was to keep living, to remember, to repay, and never repeat. It's a sentence of ongoing responsibility.
So the overall impact on Southridge, as described in this narrative, it got better.
It got better, but the sources emphasize why. Not because people got fired, but because for the first time in its history, the system had to look in the mirror, and it couldn't pretend it was clean. Evelyn's presence forced that reflection.
And she's still there, arriving at 7 a.m. every morning. No big entourage, just her. And the sources mention 3 things always on her desk.
Black tea, a stack of internal reports, and a photograph, slightly worn.
And the photograph is described very specifically.
Incredibly specific. A woman in handcuffs standing in the street, her eyes staring straight into the camera. Not with fear, not with hatred, just a single silent question.
Yeah.
It's implied this is a photo from that morning, maybe taken by that bystander.
And the question captured in that photo's gaze.
The sources frame it as, do you really think you are who you pretend to be? A question for everyone, maybe.
Which leads directly into the final reflection offered by the source material.
Yeah, the closing thought. Not everyone stands trial in court, but all of us stand trial in our own conscience. And some verdicts, the quiet ones, we carry forever.
So that really was quite a journey we took, just following the narrative in your source material for this deep dive, starting from that single biased glance at a traffic light.
Right, and unfolding into this story about power flipping, deep internal reckoning, and the kind of quiet systemic change that one person's, well, presence and strength can actually bring about.
It really hits home, doesn't it? The power of perception, the damage of unchecked bias, but also the impact of someone just holding their ground with calm strength.
Absolutely. And the idea that real accountability isn't always loud. Sometimes it's that quiet internal confrontation with yourself.
We really hope you, listening, found this as compelling as we did. Maybe think about the story. What moments really stuck with you? What details from the sources stood out?
Yeah, does it make you think about your own perceptions or biases maybe, or just that whole idea internal accountability? Lots to unpack there.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into this really powerful source narrative.
And we'll leave you with that final thought for the sources. That resonates quite a bit. Not everyone stands trial in court, but all of us stand trial in our own conscience. Some verdicts, quiet and without appeal, we carry forever. What verdict does your own conscience hold?